These findings on this channel are the findings of soul meditation. That is meditation on the soul, meditation on life, the treasure of life, not an escapism into the spirit. That's a completely different kind of meditation. And what you find in this meditation is completely different than what you find in spiritual meditation. If you find anything interesting or enriching in any way, please subscribe to this channel and keep this path alive. One of the major findings when we concentrate on the soul and the nature of the soul and the well-being of the soul and what bothers the soul, one of the botherations is family. Family is a very big deal. We are born into a family which is usually not exactly sensitive to our soul's needs. This is the norm in humanity. It's not the exception. The family, the womb of the mother, is the passage of the soul passage to the living. Basically, we come from the dead. Reincarnation is true, but it serves the evolution of life. It doesn't serve any other purpose. Basically, an old soul has more experience than a young soul and therefore can advance life better. That's why reincarnation exists, to advance life. The goal of life is to eventually become stronger than death. What is the role of family? The role of family is to thrive the child. The soul is born to thrive, not to serve, not to obey. It is not a carbon copy of the family. No soul is a carbon copy of the family. And biologists are wrong about this kind of thing because they don't understand the heritage of the soul. Every soul is different, has traveled a different kind of lives. There are souls with hundreds of lives that have different understanding of head, heart, animal, physique, and the soul itself. There are 5 faculties, and every life usually explores one master faculty. It's very rare for a soul to have many faculties open at the same time. Those are more evolved souls, stronger souls. There is such a thing as a good birth and a bad birth. And unfortunately, the bad birth is usually the norm. A bad birth is where they're not ready for you. You know, the soul is born into a womb. The mother is not ready. The father is not ready. There's no money. There's no love. There's no joy. It's an accidental birth. The mother is too young. 16, 18-year-old mothers, like the one I had, was not ready for any kind of baby. She was a baby herself. Babies should not make babies. We need adults to make babies. I mean, in order for the love between a parent and a child to be good, it has to be authentic. It can't be forced, as in a lot of families, you are forced to love your mother and you are forced to love your father, even if you don't like them, because they're the boss. They tell you what to do. They force you to go to school, take courses you may not like, and you have to do it anyway. They can choose your career. They want you to be a doctor. They want you to be a lawyer. You may not want to be a doctor. You may not want to be a lawyer because your karma is different. You're attracted to different things. You might want to be a rock star. You might want to study music. You might want to study art. You might want to be, help orphans in Ethiopia. That's what your soul wants to do. When a parent doesn't respect the deepest ambitions of its own child's soul, well, that's a bad parent. When a parent lives vicariously through their child, which means the parent wants to live through the child the life that the parent never had. Right? A lot of parents had bad lives, so they want their children to have not only good lives, but the life they would want to have. And they force that child into that life. They force them into medicine school. They force them into lawyer school. And the child is not sometimes happy with that because that's not what the child wants. Then there's a disrespect for the child's soul. And therefore, the child begins to disrespect the parent. And that's legal. In real life, in the values of the soul, not the values of the spirit, it is righteous, it is acceptable for the child, right, to create a wall against the parent, to protect itself against the parent. Which means if a child develops a contempt for a bad parent, it is legal to do so. Honoring a parent is earned. The parent has to earn that love from the child by respecting the child and its growth. If a parent does not respect the child and its growth and its desires and its ambitions, then it's a bad parent. There's a lot of parents who treat their children like Nazis, treat prisoners. A child is not property. A child belongs to itself and its own life. The parent's role is to help that child flourish, to help it. The truth about love, when love is true and it comes from the soul and it's not forced and coerced, that truth is you can't love a parent who is violent to you. You cannot love a parent who has all kinds of rules for you, who doesn't allow you to go out. You're not allowed to party. You're not allowed to dress up the way you want to dress up. You can't express your femininity or masculinity. You can't enjoy the opposite sex until your parent says so. That is a violence to the child. The sexuality and romance are the liberties of the child. They're the sole rights of the child. The child is allowed to experiment with romance and sexuality without getting pregnant, obviously. Right? But it's allowed to experiment. These are very sacred fires of life. Romance and sex are very important for the child, especially when it gets into adolescence. If a parent forbids romance and forbids sex, it's kind of like crippling a child to death and putting the child in a serious depression that could last a lifetime or have, effects that are outrageous. Sometimes a child becomes abnormal, crazy, when you prevent the child from enjoying life, basically, or living its own life. So the soul is not born to obey its family. This is crazy. These are biblical, crazy values of slavery. The soul is born to thrive on the planet according to what it wants and what it's attracted to, its ambitions and its deepest desires. That's why we're born. We're born for our own lives. Okay, we're not born just to please mom and dad. The children who are just worried sick about pleasing mom and dad become sick themselves. You cannot live just to please other people. You have to please yourself. First, once you're pleased, it's easier to love. It's easier to be united with people, and you will see people in their own true light. Sometimes our family is not that good. We're allowed to be in contempt with our family. There's a lot of bad family relationships in real life. This idea of a happy family that's always together and always loving, it's a Walt Disney tale. There's a lot of conflicts even within a family, within a husband and a wife and the children. And even within the children, there could be divisions that could split them apart for life. So this whole idea that family is God, family is divine, and family unity is important, and people say, all I have is my family. This is an ego problem that is very serious in humanity because the soul basically has no status and it's not respected. If a parent, dad or mom, control your career, your sexuality, your marriage, they have to approve everything, then you're not the boss of your life. And you are weak. And you have been built a weak soul that is just happy to please other people. That is not the way to raise a child. A child must become independent. It must understand what's good for itself and follow that. We are not born slaves to anyone.